So what is a project? A project is a temporary endeavor that produces a unique product, service, or a result. So one thing we need to understand is that a project is temporary. When you do something that does not have an end, when you do something that is not defined, it's not a project. It might be a routine thing, might be an operation, but a project has to have some definite boundaries, like time. It has a scope, even though it can change. Okay, so it's a temporary endeavor. It means it must have a start date, it must have an end date, it must at times have a budget, even though you can spend over budget or on the budget. And the idea is what? To produce something unique. It's either a product, it's either a service, or it can be a result. And the truth is, every day of our life, we handle projects one way or the other. You know, that naming ceremony, that burial, that marriage can be handled as a project. We will be looking at some of the documentations that are required using global best practices. You know, some of the things we are going to be learning, some might be strange to us. Let me use the word strange. Some might be new to us, but the truth is, we do some of these things most of the time, but we don't do it in a formal way, as it were, and we do not document it. So according to Project Management Institute, they have set out in their project management book of knowledge how project management professionals can manage their projects to get result. So it's temporary in nature, and it has a definite beginning and ending. So it's unique, it's temporary, and it's progressively elaborated. Most times for some projects, especially an agile project, a very good example of agile project is software. Most times when they start a project, they want to launch out the software, they do not really understand what they really want to do. It's until when they begin to get feedback, they begin to modify, and that's why you see your system, your phone, they will be asking you to upgrade. You understand? To update. You understand? Because they've discovered some additional things, additional features. They want to add it to your software, and they will ask you to update that software. So some of the projects, especially agile projects, are progressively elaborated. Okay, so we move forward. So what is project management? Project management is the application of knowledge, application of skills, application of tools, application of techniques to satisfy project requirements. We are going to be looking at about 49 processes, and these processes, for you to manage it according to PMI, there are tools, there are specific tools, there are specific techniques that you need to use to produce, to satisfy project requirements. So basically, project management is all about applying all those knowledge that you have, the skills, the techniques, and to ensure that the project requirements are met. Project management involves preparing a business case to justify the investment. You know, most times projects are being done without sitting down and looking at the justification. What do we stand to gain? What are the benefits? What are the justification? What are the business needs that we want to satisfy? You know, your project management entails you preparing a business case, and you estimate resources, you estimate time. All right, then you develop and you implement that plan. You develop and you implement the plan, and in the process of doing that, you lead the team, you motivate them to deliver the project objectives. And while doing that, you also manage risks, you manage issues, and you manage changes on the project. And as you are managing those risks, you are also monitoring the project. You are comparing it against the project management plan for variances, for discrepancies, for non-conformities, so that you will be able to bring your project back on track while you are executing it. And of course, there's a formal way through which a project is closed. All vendors are paid, lessons learned is recorded, and the team is disbanded. So there's a formal way through which project is supposed to be closed. And then value of projects are meant to deliver value. Any project that you embark on that does not deliver value, then it's sheer waste of time. What are the values? It might be a product, it might be a service, it might be a particular result. All right. What is the value that this project is going to bring upon completion? It has to be clear from the beginning. She said that if the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. The value has to be clear. It has to be documented. And who are the people that should undertake this project? You should have an idea of who you want to bring on board on your project. In a project, the values you can get from project can be money, brand reputation, customer care, new or change product and services. So the project manager is the person that is responsible, assigned by the organization, to lead the team that is responsible for achieving project goals. A project manager must have a concise and clear writing and speaking skills. So majority of us are engineers here. We have some architects, we have QS. Well, I also want to let you know that we have a lot of project managers that are not even engineers, that are not even architects. And they are, even when they have the skills, they are able to manage projects very well. But as an engineer, you have an edge because you have a technical bias. It makes you to have an edge to your team that is working. You are in a better position to guide them in the execution of projects. %80 of the work of a project manager is communication. You communicate with your stakeholders. You communicate with your team. You communicate with the customers, the end users. At times you need to liaise with government. It is important for you to be able to go out. You have to give and get feedback from your stakeholders. Because these stakeholders, some of them can be very naughty and they can frustrate your project if you do not know how to manage them very well. So project management is different from operation management. Operation management is like a routine thing, right? When you hand over a project, then it enters the maintenance phase. Then that's operation. It talks about ongoing production of goods or services. Consider the acquisition, development, and utilization of resources that firms need to deliver goods and services. So project management is a step above project management. Program management has to do with the administration and the coordination of groups of related projects that are better handled together other than being handled separately. When you have related projects that are expected to deliver some strategic objectives, it is wisdom to manage them together, and that is what project and program management is all about. Must be some value add. There should be an advantage in managing them together as against managing them separately. A project may or may not be part of a program, but a program will always have projects. It focuses on the project interdependencies and help to determine the optimal approach for managing them. So this is a project, and you can see from this flow diagram we have groups of projects under a program. Then portfolio management is a collection of projects, a collection of programs, and then subsidiary portfolios managed as a group to achieve strategic objectives. So being a project manager is a way to start. Then you can graduate to a program manager when you have series of projects, related projects you are managing. And of course, at the portfolio level, you handle collection of projects, collection of programs. Then the aim is basically to achieve strategic long-term objectives. So for PMI, there are some areas of knowledge, that will make a project manager to stand out. I talked about this earlier. The technical management. As an engineer, you are managing a construction project. You are a civil engineer. You've been trained, all right. You have the tech. You know what it takes to do a foundation. You know what it takes to use the right material. You know what the basics, the design basics. You know the theory behind what you are trying to do. So when you have that technical experience, it helps a lot. All right, so let's look at it. Skills to apply. Then the technical aspect also has to do with the skill to manage schedule, the skill to manage cost, the skill to manage risk. All right, and we have a lot of tools and processes how to tailor them together to achieve your objective. Then leadership is very key and is very, very important to being a successful project manager. You deal with people every day. You need to have qualities and skills of a leader. You need to be a servant leader. You have to be visionary. You have to know where you are going. You have to be positive. You have to be optimistic. And you have to know how to get your people there. And you should be trusted. You don't promise what you cannot give. All right? And you have to know how to communicate excellently. And you have to be a learner, a long-time learner. It is said that the day you stop learning is the day you start dying. Never stop learning. You should yearn to learn new things every day. You have to be kind, you have to be honest, you have to be loyal, and you have to be ethical. You have to give credit to others when they do well. It's not only about criticism. And if you need to criticize, you need to criticize constructively. Critical thinking, you have to be able to think ahead. You need to be able to think ahead of your team. What are the issues that are coming next? And you need to be able to plan how to mitigate issues when they come up on projects. And it's one thing to be able to do what? Build effective teams. What makes a leader to succeed? One of the things is that you have good people around you, people that are motivated, that are enthusiastic about their work. All right? Then leadership, ability to guide, to motivate, and to direct a team. You have to know how to negotiate, how to communicate. Most of the time, you'll be solving problems. And interpersonal skills, that's like emotional intelligence. All right? Emotional intelligence, you need to know how your emotions, how you're able to manage your emotions and the emotions of other people. All right, then we move. Then strategic and business management. For a project manager, it's not only about where the company that you belong to. You should have an idea of what is happening at the management level. You need to have a working knowledge of business functions. It's not about casting concrete. For you to be a successful, you'll be involved in procurement, you'll be involved at times even in recruitment. You understand? They will seek your opinion. You need to know about finance. You need to know about IT. It's not only about your core area for you to be a successful project manager. What does this do? What this does is the fact that it makes you to be able to manage any kind of project when you have that strategic and business management edge. Then when you don't know something, you are able to what? Seek knowledge from functional managers. You need to have an understanding of the company missions, goals, and competition. It's not only about your area. You need to be interested in what is going on at the high level. This will help a project manager to make a better decision for the project. And phases and deliverables. A phase is a collection of logically related project activities that culminates in the completion of one or more deliverables. For instance, for a construction project, we can have the design phase and we can have the construction phase. All right? So in the design phase, you are expected to have deliverables. In the construction phase, of course, the design phase, the deliverables will be what? Your designs, your approval drawings, your government approvals, as the case may be. And of course, in the construction phase, you have him is that building, is that bridge, is that road, as the case may be. A deliverable may be tangible or intangible. All right, and your deliverable must be acceptable by the customer at each particular phase. Then we have what we call a project life cycle. This is a representation of the phases that a project typically goes through from start to finish. It can be predictive or adaptive. What is the difference between predictive and adaptive projects? Predictive projects, for instance, is a construction project when your requirements can be well defined from the beginning. You can plan for your foundation. You know the number of blocks that you need. You can calculate the cement you want. You can even calculate the labor that you require because it's what you have been doing for some time. But for adaptive projects, they are susceptible to a number of variations, a number of uncertainties, a number of changes. Changes happen throughout the course of the project. So the project, then hybrid. When we look at hybrid, is a methodology that combines both predictive. Predictive is also the same thing as traditional. All right. So the work of a project manager is integration. When we look at the project management knowledge areas, we talk about communication, cost, resource management, quality. So the work of a project manager is to integrate all these components. So a project manager's work is a lot. He has to manage resources. He has to manage costs. He has to put an eye on quality. He has to communicate very well. He has to ensure that the stakeholders are being informed when they are supposed to be informed. He has to put an eye on risk and the schedule, of course. The scope, you must not work out of scope. If you work out of scope, the probability is very high that the cost implication might not be approved. So the work of a project manager is what? Integration, to integrate all the knowledge areas. All right, many processes are happening at once or in a certain order. Many different human behavior and personality to deal with. Many different products such as new and old technology. Okay, so who are your stakeholders? These are individuals, groups, organizations that may be impacted, affected or perceived to be affected by your project. At times it can be positive and it can be negative. The project manager manages the project. The customer uses the project deliverable. The project team, they are the ones that complete the project work. The project sponsor provide resources. And the project manager, the functional manager, they are the departmental heads. Alright. Then we have organizational structures. We have some functional organizations. We have some weak matrix, balance matrix. And a projectized environment is a company that they have a PMO. That's a project management office. They are the ones that they control resources directly. In some companies that have so we have from one extreme to the other, we have the functional companies that are, we have different departments. We have IT, you can have maintenance, you can have finance, you can have this. When they have projects, what happens is they just they appoint their project manager. But on the other hand, when you have a PMO, is a project management office, and when it comes to resources, they are in full control. Project controls, budget controls, they are in charge. The project manager's role is full-time. So depending on the different organizations, they choose structures that best suit their business model. All right, project constraints. We have scope, we have schedule. Schedule is one of the things we want to really base our training on today, how to do scheduling. So the 6 constraints that we have for project: scope, cost, risk, quality, and resources. Now, what I have here is what we call the process groups and knowledge table areas. On my right hand side, on my left hand side, we have the knowledge areas that I've been talking about. We have 10 of them. And on the topmost, on the right hand side, we have the phases, process groups, which are initiation, planning, executing, monitoring and control, and closing. So many things that we can see here. As a matter of fact, there are 49, and we say there are 49 processes. If you want to manage a project the PMI way, it can look voluminous. You might think that this is a waste of time. But if we look around, we see a lot of failed projects. Why do they fail? If you look at planning, we have about 24 processes in planning. When you don't plan very well, you fail. You are planning to fail, as it were. Your scope has to be properly defined. You have to collect requirements. You have to define the scope. You have to create work-based and structure. You have to plan your schedule. That's what we want to do today. We are going to be defining our activities. We sequence them. We are going to estimate activity durations. Then that's where we develop schedule. So under planning, under project schedule management, that is what this course is all about. We will also make an attempt to look at cost management, to estimate cost and determine budget. We are going to look at that also. And when you initiate your project, like I said, a project charter is authorized. You identify your stakeholders. Then you go through these processes. In one of the videos that I'm going to be sharing with us, I am going to be discussing these processes when you want to paint a room. When you want to do some simple project tasks, you carry out all these things that you see here, but you don't know. But in here, they are well defined. I will use painting a room to describe all these 49 processes. We've been doing them, but probably we are not documenting them. All right, so we get there. So process group, we have 49 processes organized into 5 process groups and 10 knowledge areas. The knowledge areas are 10, and the process group is 5. And then the process group is initiation. This is when the project is authorized. The planning is where the work is. Then the execution is carrying out what you want to do. And doing that, you monitor and you control. And you bring your project to a formal close at the end. Alright? So for these processes, there is what we call input, tools and techniques, and output. For participants here that are interested in writing PMP exam, you are expected to understand, not to cram, to understand 49 processes and to know the input, the output, and the tools and techniques for those 49 processes. There's a way it can be simplified, don't worry, don't say it's too much. What is important is that you understand what they all entail. Okay, that is the end of these basics